Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanne Fields, and I am the director of the Filipino Resource Center. And we have started a series in partnership with the San Diego Union-Tribune to give a voices of Filipino frontline workers. And this evening, we have a good friend and a very strong advocate for our community. His name is Vill Miranda. Vill Miranda is a respiratory therapist at Sharp Grossmont in La Mesa, the largest East County. Vill is one of the individuals you don't come across every day. He's one of the few that graduated as a U.S. Marine at the young age of 17. Now, at the age of 42, Vill is known for being a master connector and influencer. He has helped many people through turbulent lives as a certified life coach and personal mentor, allowing them to grow from their own strengths and experiences. Vill is also the founder of Streamline Events, a successful entertainment company based here in San Diego. Vill has also mentored other businesses, helping them grow into 6 and 7 figure companies. If you think that was enough, we bring him here today as a professional in the medical field, as a licensed respiratory therapist in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Welcome, Vill, and thank you for sharing your day off with us tonight so that you can share your experiences, what you are seeing there at Sharp Grossmont, so that we
Yeah,
can
thank you.
humanize. We hear statistics. We're hearing that ICUs are full. We know that we have an explosion of cases here in San Diego and nationwide. So, with our platform, with our partner, with the San Diego Union-Tribune, we'd like to share your experience so that people know that they do have a part in slowing down this pandemic, that we can all contribute to the slowdown and hopefully the elimination of COVID-19. So, if you would, can you please share what a typical day at work, if there is such a thing as a typical day, and what that shift may look like? When did you start? Is it a night shift, graveyard shift? Tell us.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on here. And, I am a night shift employee. I work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And there is no such thing as a typical day anymore. Every day is a whole new, um, I should say, cluster of mad things happening. And you never know what's going to come through the door anymore, as far as like when our emergency room and is coming into the ICU. My main focus when I am at work is ICU currently. I've been doing emergency and ICU for a very long time, 15 years. And it's just amazing at what is happening in the world around us and how blind some people want to be. And this is a livelihood that we're trying to help people through. And it almost seems that everybody wants to come up with an excuse as far as why it may or may not be real. Well, from my own personal experiences, I mean, I've had family members die from COVID already. I've had family members survive from COVID. I've had friends die from COVID. It's not a nice thing to see happen, and it's a very, very sad thing to see if you are the family member of someone who is in the hospital.
So, how do you prepare for your shift? What type of protection gear do you wear? How large of a unit do you work in?
So at Grossmont Hospital, both of our intensive care units have 24 beds, and the hospital has been great at supplying us with scrubs, so we don't have to come in with our own personal scrubs. I mean, we'll wear our scrubs to work, but if we are working with COVID patients and we are in one of those danger zones, They have been, been able to supply us with scrubs that we can change into, so we're not taking all of this home. We have to completely gear up. We're putting gloves, gowns, eye protection, mask, of course. And it's an ordeal to get into these rooms. And especially when there's so many of them, it's different when, you have one or two patients and, out of 24 beds, and it's very easy to go from one room to the next. But when you have 5, 6, 7, 8, even, one of our ICUs, I believe currently as of last night had 22 COVID cases in just one of the ICUs. It takes a lot just to get into a room. So when you think about the care that we need to provide to these individuals, you also have to think of the timing. We're kind of being delayed because we have to protect ourselves so much to get into these rooms, but that delay is protecting us so we can continue to protect those that are coming in.
So you have your unit, and then you also assist patients in ICU.
Well, respiratory is a big department. So we have therapists that focus within specific areas. So my area currently is just ICU. That's the only place that they've been putting me. We do have therapists that are in the nursery and in the women's center and, just other areas of the hospital. But ICU has been my main focus since all of this started, because a lot of these patients are seriously ill, and there are different modes of therapy that some of us are able to assist with that some of the other ones are not trained on. So they put all the critical care therapists where they need to be so that way we can provide the proper care.
So it sounds like due to COVID, your therapy has expanded into different departments, including ICU, which has the largest number of patients in need of care at the moment. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Our entire hospital, I believe, currently has I think it's over 100 COVID cases. And, that's a lot for any facility to take on. And, when I tell you that they're in ICU, keep in mind that that does not mean that they are on life support. We do have patients that are just very, very ill that are kind of on that tipping point that we do have to take care of.
So I asked that because it sounds like when we talked to Jem Olivar, RN at Sharp Chula Vista, that because of the number of cases, the number of beds and floors had to expand. But with the expansion, that also means the expansion of staff. So are you coping with the staff needs? Are you picking up extra hours, another shift, because you have to keep up with also the need for staff to supply the therapy.
This is one of those rare occasions that has actually surprised me. And I really feel really bad for a lot of our nurses, because nursing has been hit so hard. When people hear that there's no room in the hospital, that doesn't mean that there's not an empty bed. What that means is there's no nurse to take care of that bed. And so the nursing is getting hit so hard because they're stretched so thin. Normally, we have some of our critical care patients that are like one-to-one with nursing. And right now, they're like taking 2 or 3 patients on top of what they're supposed to actually have because they're so short. And it's the same thing with respiratory. Last night, I worked extra because our staffing was so short. And I left work this morning, and I believe our day shift was 11 therapists short this morning for respiratory therapy, and that's a big number. So at that point, we have to really look at who really needs our therapy and focus on the most critical patients, and do what we can to keep everybody, number one, protected, but also keep those that don't have COVID. We have to keep them well as also.
Mhm. So we hear that people need to be intubated. They need assistance in breathing. What do you actually do to assist in their breathing? Is it a machine? Is it what does it entail?
So normally when people are coming in with COVID, what it does to your lungs, it actually inflames your lungs. And one of the best ways for me to explain to you how that happens is if you if you take your tongue and you touch the inside of your cheek with your tongue and you feel how smooth that is, that's exactly what your lungs feel like. Now, when you start to get inflamed, imagine taking that smooth, nice surface and touching it down to a hot stove. Okay, so you start to get a little bit of water buildup. Like if you burned your finger with a blister, you get a little bit of fluid buildup in that blister. Well, your lungs will do the same thing. They'll start to protect themselves from the inside. They're trying to protect themselves, and that mechanism that happens, it goes too far, and you get an area of fluid buildup in your lungs where you're unable to oxygenate. We can give you all the oxygen you want, but we can't get the oxygen through that fluid layer. So people normally come in and they're okay. We take them in steps. You don't just come in and we're doing everything right off the bat unless you're really that serious in the emergency room. But normally people will come in and they're trying to fight it on their own for a couple of days, and they just tire out. They just can't do it. So then we start off, first of all, with what we call non-invasive ventilation, and we put people on a BiPAP machine, which is a face mask. It just covers your nose and your mouth, and it'll allow you to have a little bit of positive pressure. So when you actually inhale, it'll help you kind of stretch your lungs a little bit. And when you exhale, it actually will not allow you to exhale fully past a certain pressure. So that way we can keep a little bit of pressure in your lungs. Hopefully it'll help you open up. If you start to tire out from that and your body's just not responding to it, at that point is where we come into intubation. And in order to intubate somebody, in most cases, the nursing staff has to give you drugs that will paralyze you and sedate you. And of course, there's always a doctor at the head of the bed getting ready to put this tube down your throat. And they will give you the medications. And as soon as we see you go to sleep, we're on a rush to go ahead and get you a secure airway, so that way your body can relax and we can help you breathe properly.
So when we hear there's a shortage of ventilators, is that what is being um, utilized when you're doing this process?
Yes, a ventilator is a life support machine, and I really do want people to understand this, because as soon as they hear that, everybody panics. Oh my gosh, they're on life support. Keep in mind, there's a second word in there: life support. We are using it as support. Doesn't mean that somebody is always going to go to the worst of things when they're put on a machine like this. It just means that we're here to support you with this mechanical device as your body needs, until your body can heal properly. Unfortunately, that isn't the case for many people. There have been quite a few cases where we've tried and tried and tried, and we've done everything we can from the nursing standpoint and from the respiratory standpoint to support these people, and their bodies just won't let up. Their lungs just won't let up, and we end up losing that battle.
So our families, friends, are they allowed to be with their loved one if they are in that final stage?
So let me paint you a picture of how it actually happens. So being a respiratory therapist, and the fact that we are in charge of those ventilators, we are in charge of the life support. And when it comes to the point where it is time to take you off, because there is nothing more that we can do, and the decision has been made by your family or in your own wishes, depending on how things are in, legally, um, we do not allow anybody to come into the hospital, which is one of the saddest things. First of all, you have a loved one who is going to their end of life in the hospital, and you cannot come in to see them. And I'll tell you that the way it happens is we contact the family, and we have a couple of iPads that are actually in the hospital, and they're in the ICUs. And we do a FaceTime with a few of the family members, and I explain to the family members who I am, what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking their loved one off of the machine, and we are going to let them go, comfortably. And it's really hard, because here I am having to talk to these people on an iPad when just a year ago, I was able to talk to them, hold their hands, comfort them, and help them get through this time. And now I can't do that. I'm just telling them that I'm going to be taking their loved one off of life support. Once I do that, I push the iPad. So our iPads are actually on little roller carts, and I push it to the glass of the room, and they can basically see their loved one in the bed just through the glass. And so I have to get myself geared up, get my mask, my goggles, and my gown and gloves and everything on. And then I go into the room, and I'm basically giving them hand gestures. So I tell them, I'm going to take the tube out. So I'm telling them I'm going to pull out the tube, and I will cover it up so they can't actually see me pulling the tube. I'll put a towel over the face just so, it's not traumatic for anyone. And I will turn my machine off, and I will get that tube, and I will push the life support machine away. And it's so hard for people because they, anytime you have somebody that's leaving your life, you want to be right there. You want to hold their hand. You want to say something to them. They can't hear you. They can't touch you. You can't touch them. Nothing. And it's been really hard on a lot of people. And sometimes people go immediately. Sometimes people go within an hour or two. And I mean, that's a long time to just be sitting there on a video screen waiting for someone to pass away.
Oh man, I really don't think we really realize the steps that you all go through, that it's more than just a job. It's not just the physical of the ventilators, the machines, but the emotions that you all experience with so many different people. And what I'm hearing, it's different ages as well. It's not uh, uh, COVID-19 does not affect only the senior community or older adults or people with underlying medical conditions. I've heard, 29-year-old that had no uh, underlying medical conditions, was healthy just the day before, and then is now needs assistance breathing, and then passes by himself in ICU. Tell us about that. Are is there an age range or a certain segment that you see that is affected by COVID?
Well, here's kind of the bigger issue when it comes to who's affected by COVID. Number one, you have to understand who the biggest carrier group is. So the biggest carrier group is like teens to young 30-year-olds are the biggest carrier groups. And that's kind of why I believe that they feel that they're okay, is because they're not being affected by it. They're what we call asymptomatic. They don't really have, they don't even have a cough, a fever, nothing. They're a carrier of it. And because they think that they're okay, they're going into their homes, and they're, unfortunately infecting their loved ones who could be their parents, their grandparents. And if they have medical issues, it really hits them hard. And it's it makes me wonder, like, wow, how can you, just because you feel okay, walk into your family's home knowing that you just came back from a party or something with a bunch of friends, and walk into your family's house with confidence that you're not going to give them something when you don't even know yourself if you have it. And so, yes, the biggest carrier group, teens to young 30s, most affected are going to be those over 40s, as far as what I've seen. I have had a few in their 20s, and I will tell you this much: they did not pass from it, but they will never be the same from it.
Can you describe what happens? I forgot the term, but you may have survived COVID-19, but the consequences or the repercussions of having COVID will stay with you, and you may never fully recover. Can you describe what that is?
So your lungs are one of those things that pretty much can't be repaired once they're damaged. It's just like a smoker. You can smoke, 30, 40 years, you're never going to repair your lung damage that you've done. And COVID is kind of the same way. It does so much internal damage to your lung lining that you may never breathe the same. You're going to be breathing, but as far as like taking those big deep breaths, maybe you're going to get short of breath faster. Maybe you're not going to be able to run like you used to. You're not going to be able to do all those outdoor things like you used to, because now you're feeling winded from the effects of COVID.
So some people may fully recover, others may not, or that there is a residual. Would that be
Oh yeah.
safe to say? There's a residual after COVID. And can you recover from COVID and then catch it again? Have you seen that happen?
I have not seen that happen. It's I really don't know. And with the vaccine, coming out, I have no idea.
Hmm. Have you received the vaccine yet?
I will be getting my vaccine at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh wow. Was that
Yeah,
a hard
Sharp was,
decision?
very smart with what they did. I can't believe what, Sharp preparing for all of this way ahead of time. They knew that they were going to need storage for the vaccine, because the vaccine needs to be stored a certain way. And they had really prepared to get the proper amount of vaccine for the frontline staff that needs it right away. And the frontline staff for us is everybody who's right in their face right from the get-go. And they've taken those steps to go ahead and provide us with what we need to keep us safe.
So is it a series of injections, or what did they tell you to expect?
It's going to be 2 different injections. So I'll get one tomorrow, and then I'll get another one 21 days out. And we are getting, I believe, the Pfizer medication, or the vaccine is what they're giving us.
Okay. Wow. Was that a hard decision to make, to receive the vaccine? Is it just mandatory? Because I'm hearing varying stories. So
Yeah, it's definitely not mandatory for us. For myself, it's a no-brainer. I mean, my parents live with me, and my dad is little disabled, and I don't want to get my mom and dad sick. I also have my daughter here with me. My girlfriend is here with me, who is also a nurse, and she's part of the rapid response team at the hospital, and as well as she currently, well, I should say not currently, she had recently stepped out of the ICU to become part of this rapid response team. And so the way I look at it, being a former Marine, and I was given more shots than I could possibly imagine when I was in the military. So the way I see it is, I survived an anthrax shot. Why not get this?
okay. Thank you for, walking us through, and the whole purpose of the sharing of your experiences, because we only get sound bites at times when we're watching, the news, whether it's local or global, and we don't really get the story as far as our local community. This is really affecting our East County, where you are at Sharp Grossmont, and to hear the rollout. How is it really being administered? Again, we get sound bites, but with talking with you and speaking to our Filipino frontliners, which we usually don't get to hear from or see in the media. But according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the Filipino community is the second largest ethnic group here in the county of San Diego. We are the largest segment amongst all Asian Pacific Islanders in the county of San Diego. And we have a very high percentage working in the healthcare system. I'm waiting for the exact number. And I read in the sister paper for the Tribune, that what the LA Times is, that 35% of the COVID-19 deaths are of Filipino descent. So that's why I want these stories, our hope and our mission with the Filipino Resource Center, the Filipino COVID-19 Task Force, and with you and the Tribune is to educate our community. This is what's happening for those people that don't believe that there is such a COVID-19, that it is only flu-like symptoms, but you don't treat those flu-like symptoms with the therapy that you're providing, that the many floors, the many beds that are needed, the staff, that the staff has been impacted, again, not just physically but mentally, the emotions that you deal with every day, every night, every shift. And again, we want to better educate our community on what happens when you do go into the hospital, should you go into the hospital. But maybe hearing your experience, hearing the experience of Nurse Olivar there at Sharp Chula Vista, that maybe that you will take heed, especially we this weekend we are going to celebrate Christmas. And in our community, in the Filipino community, we celebrate big. We have the large meals, the feasts, but this time around we need to do it differently. Whether it's on a platform like this online, and we have to pivot, but that's okay because we will have another season to celebrate together. But at this moment in time, we need to think about protecting ourselves, our family, our friends, and essentially the whole community. It's not just about the Filipino community because we all have a part in this to slow down COVID-19 and then to hopefully we will eradicate it. But in the meantime, while we're going through the process of the vaccinations, what can you share with the community? What are the steps that, again, as we enter this Christmas season, this holiday, what should we do?
You know, generally, this is something I just have to say because Filipinos are very proud, right? We're a very, very proud culture. And I I'm almost wanting to beg you to just put your pride aside. Just if you imagine we've been doing this since like February, March, we've been in this quarantine and in and out, and we're opening things up, we're shutting things down. Just put it down and you know get off that high horse and give it a little bit of a chance. Can you imagine? Let's do the what if. What if everyone properly quarantined for 30 days? Properly quarantined for 30 days. What would have happened? What if during this whole time we've been on lockdown now, just do it right? And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't really understand is people are so tired of being home. They're so tired of not being able to go places and do things. And it's wearing out on them. They're just like, you know what? I'm fine now. I'm just gonna go. But that's all it takes. It just takes that one little mistake for you to get out there, expose yourself, and potentially kill your entire household. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to bring it into your home. It's not worth it for you to get it. If you don't have it now, why would you step out and potentially expose yourself to something that could be the end of you? I wish that people would just do things properly. Yes, wear your mask if you're going to go out. Try to do things only for essential needs. And one of the biggest pet peeves that I don't really hear people talking about anymore, but I have seen people do: stop wearing gloves everywhere you go. You're spreading germs everywhere. And people don't realize it. They think that, oh, I'm going to put the gloves on and they're okay. But what they don't realize is it's so second nature for you to reach into your pocket, grab your keys, ladies reaching into a purse, guys reaching into a backpack, that they're not realizing that I've got gloves on and I've been touching stuff all day long. It doesn't work like that when we're in the hospital. We glove to go in. As soon as we're out, the gloves are gone. But people are thinking that whole thing backwards. They're putting gloves on at home and they're getting into their car. Okay, your gloves are still clean. Now you get to the store, you're touching fruit, boxes, carts and everything else with the same pair of gloves, which you don't know what they've touched yet anymore. They've touched everything. And then they go into their car. Now they're touching their steering wheel and everything in their car. They're digging in their purses and, their backpacks and their pockets. And then they're going home and then they take the gloves off when they get home. Well, you've just overexposed everything about your gloves. Stop wearing gloves everywhere.
Mhm. Yeah, the gloves and your phone rings. Now you brought the phone to your face, and
That's
you
it.
know it's just out of habit. So, thank you for that reminder. So again, the best way to protect is stay home.
Yeah.
And if you must go out, then wear your mask properly over your mouth and your nose.
And your nose.
Yes, because we see a lot of that, it drops down, it doesn't properly fit. You can adjust the bands over your ear. I've seen little clips being added or extenders. So I think that's something we'll need to demonstrate for the next series is how to properly wear your mask. That if it's a disposable mask, that's just it. You dispose of it after you wear it
Exactly.
at one time and not wear it all week long or a month long. And the washable ones, make sure you wash it. Hot water, air dry. And I like to have extra mask in the car just in case, the band breaks. That happened. The band breaks. Now what do? I need an emergency mask. So that would be a nice Christmas gift that you can buy online. Support your small business. We have quite a few small businesses creating masks. Maybe you need to be color coordinated. That's great. But remember to buy the ones that will actually fit and so that it can protect you. And frequently wash your hands. 20
Frequently wash
seconds.
your hands.
Yes. And I prefer the water versus the sanitizer any which way to make sure hands are clean as much as possible and the 6 feet distancing. Because again, we are going to celebrate Christmas. We want to celebrate it together. So whether it's on the phone, whether it's on Zoom or on any other platform out there so that we can see one another, let's be grateful for that so that we want to see you, Vill, but I don't want to see you in ICU.
Yeah. I mean, I miss my friends greatly. I mean, I've had to put everything aside and I don't, gather with my friends and, we're all hurting from it. We're all hurting from it. It's not just, one person here, one person there, but it's the sacrifice that we got to take. And it's for us. It's not just for me. It's not just for my household. The sacrifice I take to protect myself the proper way is to protect all of you, whether you're coming into our hospital or not. And when it comes to the hospital, if you need to come to the hospital, come to the hospital. Don't sit there and try to fight something, because with lungs, you will more likely lose. If you're having an issue with your lungs, any type of respiratory issue, get to the hospital. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't come to a hospital.
Mhm. So, thank you for bringing that up because in our community, some of our family members are very extreme. They sneeze, I got to go to ER. Then we have the other extreme where I'm fine, but they're laying in bed, they're having trouble breathing. When is the time to go to ER? When is the time for telemedicine? Because that's something new in the community as well, telemedicine, that I'm talking to the doctor just like we're talking in front of each other with cameras. When is the time that you should go in to be checked?
So when it comes to respiratory issues, what I've always told people is like the rule of three, because I know for a fact, as a former asthmatic, I had asthma as a kid. And when people are really having trouble breathing, and doctors will give you your inhalers and say, oh, use it, every 4 hours as needed. But as a true asthmatic, I know for a fact that at some point in time I had done like 1 or 2 puffs, and 30 minutes later I'm still not feeling, do another two, and I'm just kind of stacking up. So I always tell people rule of three. You're not supposed to do it. Keep in mind, doctors have never told you to do it, but you'll do it anyway just because you feel like you need it. If you're taking your inhaler or any type of respiratory medication that you have at least 3 times within an hour, maybe that's not the issue. It's that's not what you need. It's that you need something else to help you get over the hump. When it comes to people that don't have any respiratory issues, when is it the time to come into the hospital? Well, I would say when you're having trouble speaking complete sentences, when you're able to communicate properly to the point where you're struggling a little bit, and you're a little just uncomfortable. But when it starts to tighten up in your chest, your back is starting to hurt, you feel like your throat is closing up, you need to get to the hospital. Don't try to fight that at home, because if all of that is shutting down, the last thing we need is for you to come in at the end of that, when it's like a live or die situation. We'd rather be able to communicate with you and kind of figure out what's going on with you, instead of you having to come in emergently.
Well, again, thank you for the tips. We know that the San Diego County has a COVID-19 page where you can receive more detailed information as to the steps you should follow to get tested. You can get tested for free throughout the county of San Diego. You can also go again to the San Diego County COVID-19 website for location, the schedules. In language material is there, whether you speak Tagalog or Spanish or Arabic. They also have 211 is another great resource that we would like to refer people to go call. If you prefer to call and talk to somebody, where you can access the community resources. I think that the County of San Diego, HHSA, the community health workers that they have out to better educate our community, that we need to remain vigilant. But again, with the partnership with the San Diego Union-Tribune, to bring out the voices of our Filipino frontline workers, I think that we command attention when they see someone like us, when they hear someone's experience like yourself, Vill, of what it takes to get through your shift, and really humanizing what is happening back there. It's not just a statistic that the numbers go up, it goes down, we open, we close, but there's reason, there's scientific reason, and we're trying to all do our part. So make sure you wear your mask, you 6 feet distance, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, and as much as possible, stay home. Stay home. You can still go out for walks around the block, get your exercise, go into the backyard and get your vitamin D out there. We have great weather. We're blessed with that in San Diego, but there is a time that we need to sacrifice, and I think we are doing okay. We could do a lot better. So again, thank you for sharing your experience. So I hope that will draw people to really take heed and remain vigilant during this Christmas season. So, are there any last words that you'd like to share with our audience, other than I'd like to share that everyone, since you may be watching on Facebook, click the share button so that your network can watch this conversation that we've had with Vill, so that, again, it'll better educate what experiences that our Filipino frontliners are experiencing at work.
The one thing I just really want to say is to all of the RTs that are out there within the Sharp system. Number one, because you're my family, just keep pushing forward. It's what we do. It's what we're good at. Don't question yourself. And you know what? We're rock solid. To all the other respiratory therapists out there, you're my family as well. Stay safe, protect yourself, and just do the job you were trained to do. And let's save these lives if we can.
Yes. Know that you are all appreciated. We pray that you get home safely to your families, your friends. We pray that all of our essential workers, you are our heroes on the front line. I do want to say thank you to Luis Cruz, who is assisting with our tonight's production. If there are questions that you may have of myself or with Vill, please let us know in the comment section. We will review the questions and try to best answer any questions or concerns that you may have. But if you'd like to give a shout out to our respiratory therapists, for our healthcare workers, our essential workers, there are so many that we need all of you to be healthy and be well and be safe. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone.
All right. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right.